Welcome to the Grand Prix. I'm Nathan, and we've got Nick and Alex, and this is a Formula One podcast. So we're going to go backwards a couple weeks here and start off with Australia. I think probably the biggest story that came out of that race was Carlos Sainz winning. Um, with Carlos winning, Alex Brundle, so he's the co-host for Sky Sports. He did come out, which I thought was pretty accurate, saying that he thought if Carlos would have participated in the prior race, that he would be leading the Constructors' Championship right now. I can't really disagree with him too much because he would have had to finish fourth or better in that race in order to be beating Max right now. But with that said, I think we can talk about Max a little bit. Obviously went out with that brake issue. What do you guys think about that?
The best news to come across ever.
Red Bull imploding a little bit or a one-off incident?
I would like to say he's imploding because I hope so. But let's be real, Max is probably the best driver out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
one
super
off.
classy. He was super classy. And, in his post-race interview, he didn't seem upset or anything. So, it was kind of a whatever kind of happened sort of thing. So we'll kind of see what happens. But I think Red Bull was a little shocked by it. I mean, we'll see
Yeah.
if they have any repeat issues. But Sergio Perez had a pretty lackluster race, I think. He finished in the points, obviously, but couldn't really bring it home. So I think that in general, Red Bull may be having a few issues.
I mean, that's a street race is right up there for Perez. That's what he's supposed to be good at. And year after year, he continues not to perform in a Red Bull car. I mean, he's just lucky he has Max and a great
Yeah, he's
car.
mid. He's mid at best.
Well, I think, he knows there's a few people out for his spot here, so he's got to start performing or something's got to happen. I mean, that was a prime race for him being in a Red Bull, considering that Max went out so early in the race. He should have capitalized a little bit better, but maybe they just didn't have it right this week or a couple weeks ago.
I think it just goes to
Um,
prove that without Max, Sergio Perez is just there.
sure,
He,
but
Which he does a great job. But he does a great job being there when Max is there. But like when Max isn't around, he doesn't step up.
you could have said that years ago when Mercedes was winning. I mean, Bottas was just there, but
But I think Valtteri, he had more. He's more victories though. How many
he
victories does he
does.
have?
He has 10 victories, and that puts him 10th all time. So, I mean,
I mean,
he's
so
definitely a winner.
I mean, I'd say Valtteri is much more of a better number two than Sergio is to Max.
Yeah. All right, I'll agree with that.
Sergio just banks on
Um,
Max dominating. That's all he does.
Yeah, no.
If Max isn't there
so,
to clear the way, he's like,
That's what.
"Oh, I
Yeah, that's
can't drive."
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, he gets those
well,
sloppy seconds.
we'll,
I
we'll go
like
to
that you said
Mercedes.
he's mid at best. Yes.
We'll move to Mercedes. What a
Oh,
terrible, terrible weekend.
oh,
So bad, so bad to the point where Toto was talking about not even showing up for the race this week.
Mm, mm.
Finally agreed to show up, so he's supposed to be there. But I'm a little worried about the engine problem. They're saying that it's not a issue long term, that they'll get it figured out. But I mean, you've got too many cars running that engine to be having problems like that. I mean,
I
there
mean,
was no like telltale sign that it was going to happen. They just said oil pressure dropped off and the engine shut off to protect itself. But that was a pretty quick just boom and it was done.
in the free practice, they were so inconsistent, lap after lap. Like there was a few laps. Lewis looked great, George looked great, and then they couldn't repeat it. You could see there was an engine issue. They're having the prior week they had battery issues. It's they're just not a good team anymore. And I love
They've
them.
been a good.
I love
They've been a
Russell.
good team in 2 years. They haven't been like. When was the last time they were actually like a good team?
2021
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is what it is. When
when
you lose
Max
all of
stole
your
that
when you
championship.
hey Victor, that's all I can say. Victor's write the story.
Oh,
Lewis can complain. Lewis can complain all he wants, but he should. He should. You know why Lewis lost that championship? Because back at the beginning of that season in Azerbaijan, he held down that magic button and crashed out on that restart when Max like lost his tire. Remember that race?
Hmm. Yeah.
If Lewis hadn't done that, Lewis would have won that championship. So he lost it himself. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
It's always a touchy subject. It's always a hard one to get into. How about George on that last lap there with Alonso? I mean, there was a lot of controversy between the 20-second penalty being too much. Alonso saying that he was having, issues with his pedals, or the engine or whatever it was. I think it might have been his gear shifts. I watched the video a few times that came out, and I mean, he definitely broke way sooner than he had in the prior, 49 laps.
I mean, it's classic Alonso. He lives outside the lines. He's wily. But it's also classic George. It's classic George because George is like pure aristocrat, upper class British guy who does not have, he's a soft chin. Let's be honest. I like him.
King George.
But like
that was any other corner that was not a DRS corner. I think he would have been able to handle that car, but his closing speed was so fast compared to Alonso. I mean, he was going 50 kilometers faster than he was at the point where he should have started braking.
I think George was just planning on using that as his advantage as DRS to just go past him after that. So he wasn't even ready for Alonso just to go fucking wild card.
Well, and hopefully too, the other issue I think that the FIA is facing on that one a little bit is that they didn't throw that red flag right away because, I mean, you listen to the radio from George and he's calling for it. I mean, he was in such a vulnerable position. I mean, and that's such a fast corner. I mean, anyone coming around that corner, if it would have been immediately after, I mean, they would have just plowed into him. I think the car that came through first was one of the Aston Martins, the other Aston Martin. And luckily he was able to evade him, but I mean, not throwing that red flag right away was pretty sketchy by the FIA or by the race.
Would they have had to restart the race though, or would they have been able to just call it?
I don't know. It makes me wonder if that's why they didn't, because that was the last lap, and would they have had a restart? It would have, they would have, the positions would have went back, to the prior lap, and so they would have had to figure all that out, and the thing would have been drawn out for 30 minutes. So maybe that had something to do with it. They were like, hey, it's last lap, we can bring out the yellow and we can slow everything down. But it was definitely a sketchy area to be in.
But it's such a George move. Like every year he does something fucking stupid. Dude is a talented driver, like unbelievably
He's very
talented.
talented.
But how is he not winning? Piastri's outperforming him. Lando's outperforming. Alonso, in his Walker is outperforming him. Jesus.
I don't know. Part of it, I mean, you look at, you've got Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, and he can't get this car figured out. So I can only expect George to get it figured out so much. I know that there's some parts that they adjust for each driver separately, but I think the car's just not there. Everyone says like, oh, if you take any of these drivers and you put them in a Red Bull, they'd all perform. I believe that. I think that's true. But that car is still built for them. And George he's looked strong. He's having a hard time getting it all put together. I mean, Singapore last year was just absolutely miserable. And then this happens, and you're looking
He's not a finisher.
Yeah. But you're looking at a span of just a few races, and it's happened twice now. So I know that was a tough week for Mercedes fans.
Honest question about George, though. This is an honest question about George. If you handed him a shovel, do you think he'd actually know how to use it?
Not at all. Not at all. He would go hire somebody out of the pit crew.
Yeah, like I feel like if anybody, like genuinely anybody on the grid, like I feel like George would be like the least like have any ability to do any hard like manual labor.
What if you handed him a spade? You think he'd know what to do in the woods?
I don't know. He does. He is very proper. I feel the same way. Internet dropped out there just a little bit. I feel the same way kind of about James Vowles. He speaks so fluently, he's like the Queen's English whenever he speaks. Yeah. I'm like drawn into the screen every time he talks. I'm like, this guy sounds so beautiful. Like it's just he's so amazing when he talks. And then George is the same way. I'm like, it's just such a Queen's English between those two.
So do you think George could be French? Like he is so like pretty and refined. Like he's almost French.
He's an upper class version of Pierre Gasly, yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's a proper Pierre.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, talking about Mercedes, obviously it's not fresh news that Lewis is leaving, going to Ferrari at the end of this year. Some news circulating about Vettel possibly coming back. Now he finished his career out pretty strong with Red Bull. I think it'd be a pretty interesting career for him to come back and race for Mercedes. But you're also looking at possibly, with Sergio's position coming up too, like, do you think possibility of a comeback?
He could go to Williams.
I don't. I think there's just too much talent. There's too much talent out there to be pulling all these old retirees back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I would say
they had experience.
unless like they had like a new team that came in and they wanted to hire an old gun to like help guide and mentor, like that'd be his role. But I don't see him actually coming in and doing anything. If you're going to take an old guy, just might as well take Alonso, who's still proven he can drive.
Oh, and I think that was Papa Stroll's reason for bringing him into Aston Martin.
Yeah. I mean, Stroll is so much better because of Alonso. 100 times better.
He's done way better the last year with him, and I mean he's finished in the points every race I think so far this year. I mean
and let's be honest, we all hated Stroll when he first came in. Like nobody thought he should have been there. He's like
everybody still thinks he should be there, but
I used to think that, but this year he's proven it. He's driving hard.
He's still clearly the Fredo of the Stroll family.
Yeah.
Papa Stroll's going to pull him out to Lake Tahoe one day when they go fishing to shoot him in the back of the head.
He's never going to pull him out as long as he owns the team. Like it's just.
I genuinely think he will. I think they're gonna like groom him to be like a management like team principal type role or some bullshit like that.
Put him
and
in
just
charge
let him.
Put him in charge of some different part of the team. Like women's side of the house or on these machines.
Yeah. Like I think eventually there's going to be a finite curve where it's like, all right, would we be able to actually win with X person over what we have? I think clearly.
Papa Stroll, he's made it clear. I mean, if anyone that's watched the Netflix show, I mean, he's made it very clear that, he wants to bring Aston Martin into a winning sports, motorsports team. And I mean,
he's ruthless as fuck.
Top 5 constructors now, but they've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And having your son in there racing all the time when you've got such talent coming up might not be the best call for him to make long term. A lot of these guys, Lewis, even Max, they've all talked about the training now that these guys coming up through the junior formulas have compared to what they had, even just between sim racing. I mean, just the ability to put laps in, even if it's not in an actual motorsports car, is making it way better, for these guys coming up than it was, 5, 10, 15 years.
These kids when their neuroplasticity is still going on when they're young kids, they're just in these sims all day, just crushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just so you guys know, Aston Martin's 1 point behind Mercedes, right down the constructors, with Stroll and Alonso, with a geriatric man and an incompetent driver. They are number 5.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow. I'm sure that's not helping Toto and his feelings right now. But it is what it is. All right. I think we've bashed Mercedes enough for this this podcast. Let's move on here. Ferrari. All right. So you've got Charles staying with the team, and then you've got, we're bringing in the old guy, in Lewis for the end of next year. But you've got Sainz at the top of his game right now. I mean, this is the best start he's ever had. I mean, the guy's racing out of his shoes. Do you think Ferrari's biting themselves a little bit? I saw I had sent it to you guys, the fool's joke about Sainz staying and, at Ferrari and Lewis wasn't coming in. But at what point does Ferrari look at it and say, was this a terrible call?
I think it's clear that Lewis is never going to be the number one. I think he's going to be at best what Sainz is now, except more expensive and more of a distraction.
Sure.
Ooh.
I think that he's hoping to, win another championship. I mean, he's a race car driver. They're all hoping that. And I don't have the statistics on it, but when's the last time a driver won a championship with 3 separate teams? Has it ever happened? I don't know.
There's no way that Leclerc's not going to win a championship before he does in the same car. They build the car for Leclerc. Leclerc's been with him for so long.
I just think it's bringing Lewis in to see where they need to improve. Feel out the car. Kind of that butt in the seat feeling, and see what they need to change.
Lewis is a great driver. He's 7-time champion, but that's Leclerc's team. I think Sainz right now is driving a little bit better than Lewis too. Sainz drove really well.
Sure. He had a really flawless race. There wasn't a mistake, in Australia that he made. He did a great race. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I think the contract with Lewis is set in stone. I don't think there's any way for them to really back out of that or anything. And, it's just...
God, that shit would be hilarious if it did, though. Could you imagine him trying to go back to Mercedes? Oh, there's no way.
Hey, guys, real sorry about what I said. I'm going to need to
There's just no way. That'd be the best drive to survive ever. Are you kidding me?
Surprise!
That'd be so fucking funny.
Honestly, my favorite part about the Australian race, it had so much going on, was Gunther Steiner doing the post-race interviews.
I love that guy.
I love the guy. Those drivers had such a hard time understanding what he was saying.
I couldn't understand a word that fucking said. The fact that they had him doing his own recording for his book, for the audiobook, I'm like, how the fuck are you going to listen to that audiobook and understand what he's saying?
I want to listen.
Have you tried? Have you tried to listen to it? It's hard. It's so hard. Because I love him. I absolutely love this guy. He lives in North Carolina, and he's German, so it's he has this mixture, and I cannot understand 90% of what comes out of his mouth. I have to go back and read it.
Literally, the only thing you understand is the word Gene. Gene.
There's parts about F1 that have just ruined my mind. I can't say car in my mind without it sounding like Toto Wolff now. The car. Every time I try to say it in my head.
No, Michael, no. It's not fair.
That's how I feel about. That's how I feel about between Toto and God, we were just talking about him.
Gunther.
I'm just I can't say certain words in my head without it coming out like him.
Imagine taking his order. Some pancakes.
Let's move on to a little bit more, I think, of a sensitive subject for all Formula One fans. RB. We've got Tsunoda definitely outperforming Daniel Ricciardo, who is, I believe, to be everyone's favorite driver. Everyone just loves him. I'd love to have a beer with him. I think he's just such a funny, talented guy. But he is struggling to get on top of that car. And to come back, midway through last year, because they weren't performing, and then to be where he is now in a car that's supposed to be much better this year. It's a lot of controversy around it, is it Red Bull's second team? Are they funding things, differently? There's a lot of speculation that they're using the same parts as Red Bull in some ways. But he's just not doing it. And there's a lot of stuff circulating about Liam Lawson coming in to replace him in a couple races if he doesn't perform. And honestly, I can't say that RB would be wrong in that. Liam Lawson, he did great for AlphaTauri last year when he had to come out for those couple races when Daniel got hurt. But I don't know if he's going to stay if he doesn't do anything in the next couple races.
I think it's time for Daniel to come home. Come to America. IndyCar, NASCAR, just move on with your life. Get a fresh start.
Something, just something else. Maybe see him in the Le Mans or something.
I
do some rally.
NASCAR. I think he'd do NASCAR. If he leaves, he's going to NASCAR.
I'd like to see him in rally. I'd like to see him do some rally.
I don't know if he would do NASCAR. Rally would be interesting. I mean, I think that's such a talent niche when it comes to racing. Like it's such a different form of racing compared to anything else. NASCAR, I don't know. Did you guys see the interview with Leclerc and Sainz and one of the NASCAR drivers, and they were just talking about the differences in their sport? Yeah, Leclerc was asking them basically like, how long their races are.
Mm.
And he was like, oh, anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours. And he was like, you just drive in a circle for 3.5 hours? He was just like, oh, no.
But I mean, Danny Rick grew up on NASCAR, so he knows what he's getting himself into. That's why I say that. Like the reason why he's number 3 is because of Dale Earnhardt. So,
what about dirt bike too? He loves riding dirt bikes.
Yeah,
the moto rocks.
I think it would be so hard for these guys. You look at Romain Grosjean. Like obviously, his move was because of the dangers that were inherent in Formula One at the time. With what happened with him, his move to IndyCar has been, or NXT, has been, fine. I mean, he's doing fine, but I just don't know if Daniel would be happy not in a Formula One car. Like I could see if he got bumped out, I think they would just put him back to being a reserve driver and he'd just be on the open market.
Yeah, I don't think I think he would just have to move on. I think it'd just be the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. Because Yuki's driving driving that car hard.
And Daniel's not young either. So
he qualified 7th, I think, for the Australian Grand Prix. I mean, he 7th or 8th. I mean, he qualified great.
Yeah.
For that, Daniel he couldn't put it together. But I know it's always a touchy one because everybody loves Ricciardo. He's just
nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, he's just such a fanboy for Formula One. But it's like, again, it's a business. If you're not performing, like you're out. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, another touchy subject, mainly because we're in modern Formula One and this shouldn't happen. But Williams. What the hell? With not bringing a second chassis, you've got Albon that crashes out terribly, and then they bump Sargent out because, and I understood to an extent, he's definitely the more experienced driver, and let's be honest, Sargent's just a trash can when it comes to racing in Formula One. But
hey, it's an American trash can, sir.
He is awful.
I mean, I love seeing an American in there, but man, that's not how I wanted to see it.
Do you think he's really one of the 21 best drivers in the world?
Nope.
No.
Maybe in junior formulas, but he's just not. He's not performing.
The fact that you said that he has the 21 best drivers instead of the 20 best drivers just kind of proves your point right there.
Yeah, because he's not. He shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and that's after race 3 in the season of 24 races. Like we got 24 drivers by the end of this race or by the end of the season. But for Williams to not have that extra chassis, I mean, it's 2024 Formula One. Like there's absolutely no excuse for that. And I know James Vowles was really disappointed. I mean, I think it kind of shocked him that they weren't ready. I know that they're in this, the cost cap now, so they got to kind of plan out how they're going to build things. But man, that's it's embarrassing for that team to be the longest team on the grid that's existed in Formula One, to have such a winning championship going back to the beginning, and then we're here in 2024 and they can't even have an extra chassis by race 3.
Nope.
Insane.
They're insane. That's when it's time to sell.
You know what I'm saying? Since you brought that up, I'm really, this whole Andretti thing with not bringing Andretti in, as an 11th team, I really feel like there's a buyout option. But I don't think it's with Williams. I think
Alpine.
Buyout option comes with Alpine.
100%.
Because how do they go from decent last year? Like they were mostly solid in the midfield. Like wasn't horrible. They were trying to fight for the mix sometimes. I mean, they got on the podium in Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had some good races last year. To what the fuck happened? Like they are terrible.
The only reason why they've had any success the last year or two is because of the talent of the drivers they have, not because of any quality of car.
Yeah,
100%. And I don't like Pierre Gasly. I don't really like Ocon either. but
I don't
they're
mind
very
Ocon.
talented
I
drivers.
think Ocon's a very talented driver. I don't understand how they've gotten to where they are. Like I know that they've come out and talked about they were. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, you're good. You're good. Awkward pause.
Internet cut out for a second.
No, I was just saying the reason why they have so many issues is because it's that I don't know if it's the French European mindset of how they run their organization. It just you have to have strong leadership at the top, and it has to trickle its way down. They had like these three like weird all these guys who are like equal level in charge of their own. It's just you just need to have an alpha. You need to have somebody at the top who runs their shit, runs it well, and that's why like Mercedes had all that success. That's why Red Bull's had all that success, and that's what makes the great teams great and makes the other teams not great.
So you think Alpine just had too many chiefs trying to put their hands in the pot versus
for this type of thing you have to their structure, their setup. I think the goals of Renault itself have been. I accidentally rented a Renault car one time when I was in Australia. I'll never drive one of those pieces of shit again. It was the worst fucking thing I've ever driven. So if that's how they make a regular car you can rent, I wouldn't. Yeah, it was such trash. So I'm not surprised, but
not putting their money in the right places, I guess.
I think it's just how the French do things. It's just
we'll move on to a happier. We'll move on to a happier story. McLaren this year. I mean, they had a great second half of the year last year. I mean, Piastri has been driving out of his shoes. I think I'd have to look it up, so don't quote me, but I think he was second behind Hamilton for his rookie season for points scored.
Oh,
I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure I saw that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But he's driving great. I've always thought that Lando was a championship driver. It's just unfortunate that he has this shitty string of podiums with no win. That's not, definitely not a award anybody wants. But they have definitely turned their ship around. I mean, they're I would say easily third best team right now. Behind Red Bull. I know it shows that, but I think that they are on merit. That's where they're at right now, and I honestly think that they can battle Ferrari through the rest of the season.
I think they'll be battling Ferrari, even pushing Red Bull. But you were right. Piastri has the second most points scored by a rookie to Lewis Hamilton in 2007, who scored 109.
Yeah, and they didn't have 22 races then either, or what did we have 21 last year because Italy was canceled.
Yeah,
So he's. I know that there was a lot of controversy when McLaren hired him. Of they're basically not controversy. I mean, he obviously deserves to be there. Controversy wasn't the right word, but more of is this the right move? You've got Lando that's 4 years into his career, and I think him and George have the same amount of time in. And you bring in this rookie, but it has definitely paid off for them. And I could see those two driving together for a long time.
Yeah,
it's a great team. They have great pace.
Strong. Yeah.
I mean, Oscar won a sprint race last year, so it's like
he did.
He
got pole, I think, in that sprint race too, and then won it.
Yeah.
And Zach Brown wants to fight Horner and Wolf, so.
Yeah.
We need to bring back celebrity deathmatch or something. Bring back something. We need to get Joe Rogan to bring back Fear Factory and just have some of these guys on there. Get past some of this. I know it seems so tense all of a sudden because you've had all the controversy with Red Bull this year, which has been unfortunate. How some of that's gone down. The lack of transparency has been a big deal. I know Vettel had a lot to say about the lack of transparency with their findings and whatnot for the allegations on Horner. So they've just had a lot of negativity on him, and it makes you wonder if that slowly starts to break down because he's the top guy. He's the guy making the decisions, and then that shit trickles down. It just makes you wonder if they had brake issues and they had their first DNF in a lot of races because things are slowly starting to break down and maybe people are not happy where they are.
Hot take. Do you think Jos Verstappen actually tampered Max's car just to start shit?
Wouldn't put it past that psychopath.
You know, I know he was a great racer, you know, and you know he raced for a lot of years in Formula One, so he knows what he's talking about. But like, it's like when you hang up that hat, like he's just a dad at the end of the day, you know. And he's over here telling Horner he needs to resign, and it's like, fuck you, man. Like you're a dad of one of my drivers. Like you don't even, I don't even have to let you be in here, you know. But I don't know if it's true. So this is all speculation. But I heard that he was dating the girl that complained against Horner, and that was why he was so vocal when they basically wrote it off, saying nothing happened. Which maybe nothing happened. I don't know. They haven't released.
Maybe he
reports,
incepted her.
And then they basically fired her in a nice way. And so it just makes me wonder if that's why he was so vocal.
Didn't he try to run over his ex-wife or something like that?
Yes, he did. Multiple people. He actually tried to murder somebody too.
He's had a rough history. You can look all this up, but he's had a little bit of a rough history when it comes to his feelings.
I mean, him and Gene Haas. I mean, Gene Haas is a convicted felon, so
It's
crazy. Jos Verstappen is this like emotional maniac, and his son's the fucking Terminator driving around a track, emotionless. His son is just drives around the track.
I do love how awkward Max is in like all these Red Bull spots where he like has to force some type of joke or comedy because he just is so just naturally so uncomfortably not funny. And then you have like you literally have like Daniel and Yuki, who are just naturally funny people.
Lovable.
Like, yeah, so lovable. And then you have Max over there. It's just like...
I'm just waiting for Max to have like an interview where like we get to see him like choke out and you know he's a robot.
Have you seen him in the Heineken commercial? Have you seen those Heineken commercials with him yet?
No.
Oh, no. It's awful. They're like,
is that the one where he's like the DD or something like that?
Yes. And he looks so awkward.
Yeah.
So awkward. You think Conor McGregor's a shitty actor. Max didn't say a word. He just stood there and you're like, bro, what's wrong with you?
Man, even Nick Saban could get on and do a half-ass commercial.
So, genuinely, I think that's what helps Daniel Ricciardo more than anything is just the fact that Red Bull can just make YouTube videos that get millions of views by just keeping him on the team. That's where he makes this value. Because nobody else in the Red Bull stable is going to be like that electric on the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Nobody likes Perez. Like, he's just not likable.
Like, I'm not here for the fans. I'm here to race. And then he leaves. And Sergio's like, my family's waiting. I got to go. Daniel's like, I have nothing going on, so let's drink some beers and have some fun.
Yeah.
But apparently Max likes to drink, though, on his plane.
No, I've seen some videos that circulated where he's just
What's the point of owning a private plane if you can't have fun with it? Like, why would
Maybe he'll just turn into like the Miley Cyrus of Formula One, and she'll just get crazier for Red Bull.
I have to look this up to be sure. But his tail number in his first airplane, it was like, what was his first number? Like 37 or 33?
33?
DTF. It was 33 DTF.
I love it.
Very nice. All right, I think we've gone through all the teams. I think we've kind of hit on all of them. So, race coming up, obviously, is Japanese Grand Prix.
Well, you forgot about Sauber, but I guess that was on purpose.
No one cares.
I feel like Sauber has beat the shit out of themselves with their pit stops that we don't.
Yeah, their pit stops literally longer than this podcast.
They're still there.
Yeah.
They haven't left Australia yet. They're still trying to. They have punished themselves enough that I just don't feel like we need to. Like, I really am going to need the China race to go good, because to have the first Chinese Formula One racer to race in China, like, he's going to need to not have a 57-second pit stop and just have a terrible race, because they have shot themselves in the foot. The worst part about it is they haven't figured out the issue yet. Like, they're still working on trying to solve it. And I'm like, again, Formula One 2024. How are we not solving your nut coming off? You know, but I don't know.
Sad.
We'll see what happens in the next race. Hopefully they got it figured out. They've had a couple of weeks, but
Valtteri deserves better.
I feel like they've punished themselves enough that we don't need to do that for them.
Okay.
Because that has
Fair.
that's been terrible.
They have an ugly color, too.
Next
They
race
look
coming up.
stupid. Their name's
That's
stupid, too.
I know, kick sour. Their color's cool, though. It's about all they've got going right now is a cool color. All right, we got the Japanese race coming up this weekend. I think Max was on pole last year, won it last year. Do we think, there's always this, thing circulating that, because Max, went out DNF in the last race, that he's going to come back just as a Spitfire and is going to smoke everybody. I don't really see that happening. I think he's upset about the DNF, but it's also the first one he's had in like 30 races, so it's not like he's just super butthurt about it. I think he's just going to come back and do what Max does, race, his best craft and try and get pole. But I think that there's definitely a lot of pole behind Ferrari at this point, that they're doing really well. And I think McLaren's going to do really well too. So I don't see him coming out and just like smoking it away from everybody like last year, where I think he beat everyone by like 0.6 of a second to pole.
It's a very thoughtful, well thought out point, but he's going to win by 27 seconds.
Yeah. Maybe just
Japan,
everybody this time.
Japan, there's just so many long straightaways that that car is just so much better. McLaren might be able to keep up, but it's a fast track.
Very fast track. I raced it on the simulator earlier today, just trying to put in fast laps. I mean, it is such a tire demanding track because of how fast it is. It's just sweeping corners, the whole first, sector on it. And then they've got some pretty nice straightaways in the back, but it's just so quick. Just to put it out there, my best time was a 129.141, which would have put me second last year on pole or in the grid for the race. But I think it'll be a little bit faster this year because it's a lot earlier in the season, so I think it's going to be a lot cooler than it usually is. So I think that's going to kind of benefit the drivers a little bit because, I mean, you're talking it was usually late summer. I mean, it was hot.
Did it rain? Did it rain last year?
Oh shit!
I have to look.
I know it rained. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I know it definitely rained one of those years.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, being in the spring this time, who knows? I mean, I'd have to look at the weather.
Cherry blossom season.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were there. You know what the weather is around this time. I mean, if it rains a lot, it might be a high chance. I haven't looked at the weather for this weekend yet.
I mean, that race would be the equivalent of happening up in like Maine versus where I was down in like the Florida Keys. So
yeah. All right. Fair enough. All right. Just to finish things up here, I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that I am beating the shit out of both of you guys in fantasy with 200 points last week.
Nate, how long have you been playing F1 fantasy for?
This is my first week. That was my first week. Thanks.
That was my second week.
And I scored.
This is my first season doing it on the correct app. Last season I did it on the completely wrong app, and I was totally lost on what I was doing. But I have done it this whole season so far. So I definitely had the upper hand on figuring out how things worked, the extra points and all that. But it's definitely fun. We'll see what happens. I don't know if I'll mix up too much of what I have currently for my F1 team, but I'll have to kind of wait and see how the practices go. See if Albin puts one in the wall again. Maybe we don't have another chassis. Who knows? They said they brought one, but we'll find out shortly, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I made it. I made an adjustment. I dropped Hamilton, and I picked up Carlos Sainz.
All right.
I dropped Williams and I put in Haas.
Smart.
For your constructors?
Yeah. So I have Maximilian Verstappen, Alexander Albon, Piastri, Valtteri, and Esteban Ocon.
Good.
and Ferrari
Good.
and
I
Haas.
don't know. I'm sticking. I've got Oscar, Sergio, Leclerc, Albon, and Sainz right now. So I don't know if I'll make too many adjustments. We'll see. We'll have to see what the money changes are because some people might get a little more expensive this week, like Sainz. I haven't looked at
Yeah.
the money differences yet.
I think I'm going to go Yuki this week. You know, he's at home.
Just taking the chance. I mean, he hasn't been doing bad. Maybe the home crowd
No,
will get him going.
he's been driving, man. Yuki, he's solid. My question is, who do you got going 10th?
Oh man,
So when old Lance Stroll yeets it into the fucking wall,
when Stroll eats it into the wall, I'm putting Magnus in 10th.
Okay. Ooh,
Put
man.
a Haas car up there.
I
Magnussen
thought
really
of
likes Suzuka. He really likes the Japanese Grand Prix, and he's such a scrappy racer. I think this could be a good race for him.
Okay. I think last week I went with Alonso, and I think I'm going to stick with him. I think Alonso finishes 10th.
That'd be a tough race for him. He would not be happy with that.
I know, but he's
Predictions.
also
I'm going with Alexander Albon.
good pick. Good pick.
Wild predictions on top three since we haven't seen anything yet.
I'm gonna go. I'm pulling for Oscar. He's getting his first podium, his first
Okay.
place, and then I'm gonna go with Max and Leclerc.
All right. Nick?
Max, Charles, and then Lando.
All right. I'm going to go Max. I think Sainz is going to continue on the run that he's on. And
Wow.
I think, oh man, it's a tough one. I don't think Perez is going to have it this week. It's not a street course. I don't think it really suits him too much, but I can see Lando really pushing for a hard third. Maybe we'll have some crazy ass shit on the last lap, and Lando will go first and finally get that maiden win he's been searching for forever. But just like last week, I think it's going to take some craziness, like all the DNFs and whatnot, to really change the outcome. But Max has a good chance of going first. We'll see what happens.
I think
all
they're
right.
If it's wet,
Final.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the weekend coming up?
Are you guys gonna be little bitches and go to sleep, or are you gonna stay up and watch the race?
On the East Coast when it comes on at 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what? Just for you, Nick, I will stay up till 9:45.
All right. Well, I'm gonna text like I did last time because I was like, oh shit. You guys said you were staying up, so I was like, okay, I'll text a couple times, and then I never heard anything. I was like, they're probably asleep. And I was like, I'll send one more.
Every
No,
time that happens, I wake up and I can't look at anything on my phone until I watch it because I know that you're going to tell me what happened.
Well, yeah, you guys do the same thing to me. It's like I have to put my shit on silent, especially when I was overseas. I was like, you guys be like texting and shit. I'd be like, oh Jesus Christ! I had to put everything on silent.
It's 2 in the morning. You're like, shut up.
Yeah.
No, I actually I'm trying to stay up this. Well, I'm gonna go to bed early because I'm 40 plus years old now, and I'm gonna try and wake up and watch it in silence because my kids wake up, they'll ruin my day and not let me watch it. So.
Well, being able to fast forward through any red flags or whatnot always helps. So I'm never disappointed about that. But all right, well, that's episode 1, I think, complete. Plan is to have another podcast here post race. So we'll probably shoot for Monday on that one. And
Yes, sir.
thank you guys for listening.